Hello, my name is Julie, and I have a ton of books I want to read this spring. I have here a gigantic stack of books next to me, balanced very precariously on a chair, and all of these I plan on absolutely reading, or at the very least have very good intentions of reading in the next 3 months. So I thought I would give you a sneak peek into what you can expect me to be reading in the next couple of months. And I'll say, I think my reading this year has been so good. I feel like I've been hitting a lot of my goals. I've been working hard to get books off of my shelves that I'm not excited about. I've been reading a good amount of favorites. I'm actually finding books that I am comfortable rating a 5-star. All great stuff. So I hope that energy carries forward. But I do know a handful of books in this stack, maybe more than a handful, are books that I'm more like trying to get off my TBR rather than being super excited about. But that is still progress. And I have broken this into a bunch of different categories of why I'm reading the book. So the very first thing I'm going to talk about is my 3 monthly reading challenges that I do. We have the Buzzword Challenge, the Buzz Cover Challenge, and my bingo boards that I do every single month are this year having a challenge of the letter of the alphabet. So let's start with the Buzzword Challenge. This is hosted by Books and Lala, and the buzzwords for April are ordinal words. First, second, third, but also last and final. For this prompt, unfortunately, the 2 books that I wanted to read for this were both like first books in series, and I am trying to get my number of series down at the moment, so I refused to do that, and instead went ahead with one of my goals for this year is to read more nonfiction. I'm trying to challenge myself to read 12 nonfiction in 2026, so 1 every month, and I'm doing more than that at this moment, so that's awesome. But I would like to read Disability Visibility, first-person stories from the 21st century, edited by Alice Wong. This is a collection of essays from disabled folks that was put together for the 15th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. I've seen this in a lot of places. I've seen people put this on like recommendation lists and everything, but it's a book of essays, so it's a little bit harder to give a synopsis for or to get an idea of before you're reading. But I look forward to reading from these points of view and see what sort of insights they have to give. And I am also going to be listening to this on audiobook. The May buzzword is make or makes, and for that, I am going to be reading a romance that has been on my shelf for way too long. That is Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. This is a book that I had put casually on TBRs for 2025. I'm finally getting around to it because this is the only book I own that has the word makes in the title, and it's one of the only books on my TBR to begin with. So this is a romance between a florist and a bodyguard. The florist has been told by her dates that she is very boring, and so she wants to make herself seem cool, so she decides to fake date this bodyguard who is one of the people doing security for a high-profile wedding happening in this small town that I believe she is also doing the flowers for. This was my first book I ever got from Aardvark Bookbox because this was an author I had had my eyes on for her of multiple of her books, and I was like, okay, it's a deal. It's only $4 for my first box. Let's get it. And I just have not gotten around to it. And since buying this book, I, for book club, read a different one of Sarah Adams' books, and I actually did not like it very much. So I want to give this book a shot. I know because it's a romance, it'll be easy to get through no matter what. I think my reading taste might have shifted a little bit since buying this book, but I am looking forward to reading like a spring-themed romance. And also it's around a wedding, which is something that I tend to like in romances. Then for the June buzzword, it is to read a book that has a 1-word title. And for that, I'm going to be reading one of the oldest books on my TBR. It's certainly up there, and that is Eternal by Lisa Scottoline. This is a book that I did not know anything about. This is a book my parents got me for Christmas. I think they both had read a book from this author before, and it was like her new release. It was a signed copy, so they got it for me for Christmas. So I just read the synopsis of this book after not having read it for a very long time. This is a book that is taking place in Rome during World War II as Mussolini is coming to power, and I know the Nazi invasion of Rome is going to happen during this book, and we have 3 main characters who grew up best friends, and they are sort of being torn apart by this group, especially as one of them is Jewish and one of them works for the fascists. So this is a book that has really, really high average rating. I don't feel like I read a lot of books that have this, vibe. I don't know what I'm going for. Like the marketing of like this cover, right? Like this isn't something that pops up on my TBR a lot. So I'll be interested to see what I think of this. And honestly, I didn't know that this took place in Rome. I think if you asked me, I would have said Paris. There's nothing on the cover that makes me think, oh, that's Rome. I mean, I don't recognize that bridge, even though I've been to Rome. It being in Rome, honestly, I think is a little bit more interesting. So that does encourage me a little bit. Now onto the Buzz cover challenge. So for April, the prompt is to read a book with an accessory on the cover. I originally had a plan to read Happy Place by Emily Henry for this. And then it turns out for my letter challenge, I was reading an H. I had a different H book that I had to put into that category. So I was like, dang, can I get a different book? Are any of the other books that I'm already planning on reading in April going to have an accessory on the cover? And luckily, one of them, if you squint, does. And that is The Tempest Blade by Daniel L. Jensen. This is the final book in the Bridge Kingdom's 6-book fantasy romance series. This is made up of 3 duologies, each following a different couple, but all having the same overarching political plot of all these countries that are at the brink of war. It's not quite a companion series like some other fantasy romances are, where like, yeah, you could pick up that second series if you really wanted to. This truly is one series, the protagonists just change. This one follows Anna, who is the sister of Arin, the king of Harendel from book 1, and the bastard prince of a nation that she has been betrothed to marry, the crown prince. This country that she's in is in a little bit of a regency setting. She doesn't fit that sort of lady mold, and she's trying to save her country by giving up her life to marry this man. I thought that book 5 was kind of sleepy, but the end of book 5 was jaw-dropping. I was like, oh my god, at every single turn. So I am hoping that this book will take me back to what I really enjoyed about the rest of the series. And this is getting published physically in April, so I'm really excited to close out this series. Then for the May Buzz cover challenge, we have a book that has a border on the cover. And for that, I'm going to be reading The Impossible Fortune by Richard Osman. This is the 5th book in the Thursday Murder series, which is basically the only murder mystery series I'm reading right now. Like, unless you count me occasionally reading a Poirot as reading a mystery series, which I don't. And every time I read it, I just have a really solid time. I just like enjoy kicking back, relaxing, and watching the story unfold. So this is a series that is about a group of septuagenarians who live in a retirement community, and in their free time, they try to solve cold cases. And when a murder happens in their area, they decide that they're going to solve this hot case. There is a wedding that is happening between characters we know and love in this book, and one of the guests at this wedding asks for our main character's help and then promptly disappears. So they're going to have to solve that mystery. I know that the previous book in the series is like the highest rated book in the series because of like the emotional thing that happens in that, less so the mystery. So I'm curious to see how the mystery part of this book is going to hold up, because I think that was less what I was focused on in book 4. But excited for this, and because he is publishing We Solve Murders 2 in 2026, so that means I have time to catch up on the series and will be caught up for the release of book 6, which will be the finale. Then the June Buzz cover prompt is to read a book that has wings on the cover. That can be an animal's wings, or it can be the wings of a plane. And for that, I am again going to be reading Eternal. We are doubling up. As you can see on the cover, there is a plane on it, which is why I picked that for this. For April, for my letter challenge, we are reading books that start with G or H. And for that, I am going to be reading House of Sand and Fog by Andre Dubus III. This is a novel that was like an Oprah's book club pick. I swear this won some like major award, but this is a book that I got in a blind date with a book that I was gifted. So I was gifted the blind date with the book without the person like knowing what the book was. They just thought the outside sounded interesting. This is a book that was published in the 90s. This is about a woman who is an alcoholic and she's struggling to keep her house, as this immigrant from Iran is wanting to have the house. And also there's a cop that the woman is involved with who's trying to like help her keep the house. I kind of don't know what's going on. I've never heard of anybody reading this book. I had never heard of this book before opening it from a blind date with the book, but I've got to read it in April. So we'll see what I think. For May, we are reading books that start with I and J. So again, I am doubling up and reading The Impossible Fortune. Then in June, I am going to be reading a book that starts with a K or an L. And I am not 100% sure what I'm going to be reading for this, just because I don't know what I'm going to be able to get my hands on, but I would love to be able to read The Last Contract of Asako by Fonda Lee. This is her return to adult full-length fiction after the Green Bone saga, which I absolutely loved. And this is a science fiction that is about samurai business people in space, is how it was pitched to me. Our main character used to be this super cool fighter, and she's been ready for retirement forever, but she has one last job to do. I do not love the American trad published cover of this book. It kind of gives me a weird vibe, but some of the other covers I've seen for this book made me a little bit more excited about the vibe of the book. So I love Fonda Lee, absolutely going to be reading this, and this is on my 2026 must-reads TBR. So speaking of that, a couple of books off of my 2026 must-read TBR that I am going to be reading. The first of those is To Ride a Rising Storm by Monoquill Blackgoose. This is the second book in the Nampesh Wayasit series. This came out in January. The first book of this I absolutely loved. This is a YA fantasy series that is about an indigenous girl who finds a dragon egg when there shouldn't be dragons in her area. And the people who colonized her people come over and say, hey, you can't have that dragon. You have to come to our dragon rider school in order to be able to keep it. So she is having to go to their school with all of these people who do not see her as fully human. I loved book one. I thought the main character was such a refreshing protagonist, and I'm really excited to see what book two has in store. Every year that I've done this 20 books to read in the year, I give myself 4 TBR veterans that I need to get off my TBR. And the one that I'm deciding to read this quarter is The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. This is a used copy that my aunt got for her book club and then passed down to me. This is about a woman who is a young biographer who is called to write a biography of a very reclusive writer who is famous for a collection of 12 short stories. And she is also well known for not telling the truth about her life, kind of mixing in fiction with fact. She is going to be telling her life story to the main character. I was originally going to read this for one vlog idea, and then I think that vlog may be getting pushed to next year, maybe, if at all, if it happens ever. But if not, I'm still planning on reading this. Speaking of vlogs, I have a couple of books that I know I'm going to be reading for vlogs this quarter. One of them is going to be The Library at Mount Char by Scott Hawkins. This is a fantasy horror. It involves a library. One of the main characters was taken to study in under this man who believes himself to be God. And there is an ordinary person who gets swept up into this thing. I have heard a couple of people on my Instagram really be vehement that I'm gonna like this book, that this is totally worth a read. I got this from a little free library ages ago, and honestly, it's in perfect condition. I just have the feeling I'm gonna like this one, and I'd be curious to see how much of fantasy versus horror it's going to be, because I was under the impression that this was a horror book, but then every time you look on Goodreads, it says fantasy. That is the only vlog I know 100% what's going on for. That's going to be for my April vlog, so I actually have no idea what I'm going to be reading for my May vlog, even though I do know what the theme is. If I can get The Impossible Fortune shoved in there, I would absolutely love that. Or Practice Makes Perfect, but Impossible Fortune more so. You can figure it out. But my June vlog, when I kind of scrapped the idea that involved the 13th tale, I came up with another idea. I'm not 100% sure that this vlog is happening but if that does happen, I am going to be reading The Ministry of Time. This is a recent science fiction book that a lot of people have been loving that is about people being taken out of time and into the present. And so we follow a man who was in an old-timey, Napoleonic-ish army and gets sent to a future where there is time travel and everything. And the main character is trying to help him adjust to his new surroundings. I love time travel. It's one of my favorite things, and when I hear a super popular time travel book is coming out, I get really excited about it, and I am so 50-50 on whether this is going to be up my alley, depending on how gimmicky this book ends up being. Now we have a couple of sequels that I am definitely going to be reading this quarter. One of these is The Tyranny of Faith by Richard Swan. This is the second book in the Empire of the Wolf series. series, that the first book felt like the North in Game of Thrones. There's an emperor's justice who is trying to solve a case with his young scribe who is telling everything to us years and years in the future. She is telling us a story of like how there was a huge like revolution or war in the empire. This is so much longer than book one, and that makes me so excited. I knew that the foundations of this world were just going to break open after book one, so I have been told I'm really going to love the rest of the series. I'm really excited. I just don't know when exactly it's going to happen. Another one that I know has to happen because I have it out from the library is The Slain Divine by David Dalglish. So this is the third and final book in the Vagrant Gods trilogy. This is a world in which the magic system is predicated upon belief. So if more people believe in you, make sacrifices to you, a god or a human being, that entity will gain power. And there are these gods that roamed the earth that were almost like legendary Pokemon of the area. It was really cool. I do love comparing them to legendary Pokemon. There is one person who has decided that they are the only god and has gone around killing all these other ones. And we take place on the island of Thanet, that was the most recent one to get conquered by this empire of this god. And it is a 3-book series of trying to get freedom for this country. It's been pretty interesting. I think this is a really underrated fantasy series. The plot twists at the end of book 2 were awesome, so I'm excited to have yet another series finished. Then I'm going to be continuing on with my Hunger Games reread, and I know for sure in April or May, I'm going to be reading Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins. Everyone knows what this is about. This is most people's favorite book in the series, so I'm really curious to see how I'm going to line up. I did watch the movie of this, like most of it semi-recently, so it does have a fresh place in my head, so excited to see what the differences are going to be. I did do a reread and rewatch vlog of the Hunger Games, so let me know down below if you want to see me continue that series into Catching Fire. Then we have a couple of 2026 fantasy releases that I want to get to be on top of the ball. One of them is The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. This is about our main character who, out of desperation, signs up to be one of the concubines of the violent prince right as a war is about to begin. And in this world, women are forbidden to read and write, and magic is tied to poetry, and our main character is going to have to secretly become a poet. I have heard nothing but fantastic reviews for this one. I think some of the marketing is leaning fantasy romance, but everyone who I've seen read it has said, nope, it's fantasy. And it has fantastic reviews online. I think this has like a 4.4 or something like that. So excited. Another one is The Red Winter by Cameron Sullivan. This is a take on werewolves that is taking place as a historical fantasy, and our main character is a former beast hunter who also has a demon companion, and they are trying to take down this one last beast. It looks really cool. I saw great early reviews for this, and I saw a lot of people recommending the audiobook specifically, so I'm going to be checking that out. So those are all the books that I know for the most part I am going to be reading as of right now that I want to tell you about. I know more than that. But a couple books that I think I'd like to shove in somewhere if I have the time. Bands of Mourning by Brandon Sanderson is another sequel that I need to get to. This is the third book in the second Mistborn series. I've heard that this book gets really emotional. I didn't love the second book in the series, but it is the least popular Mistborn book, so I'm not too put off by that. I really hope that I get into this one, and I think maybe I just need to refresh my memory of a lot of Mistborn stuff before continuing on with this. So maybe I need to watch that 7-hour Daniel Green video. Well, I said I wasn't reading Happy Place, but if I can shove it in, I am trying to get through all my romance, and I actually haven't heard of a Emily Henry coming out yet this year. We haven't had an announcement yet. I know that this is possibly her least popular, at least before Great Big Beautiful Life came out. So this is about a couple who are part of a group of friends, and they have actually broken up, but they decide to go on a trip with their friends anyway and not tell them that they're broken up. This will be my 5th Emily Henry, and only one of them has really smashed it out of the park for me, so I hope I have an unpopular opinion, and this is another one that I think is really stellar. And just one that's been staring at me on my bookshelf for a while, that I have no idea when I could possibly read it, but I want to peer pressure myself to read it, is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This is a suspense mystery novel that is about a girl who goes missing at a summer camp in the 70s. I've seen all different types of people really enjoying this one, and got a good vibe from it that I was gonna like it, and then I just put it off. Lastly, a nonfiction that I would like to read this year, don't know if it's happening this quarter, but I'd like to shove it in, is Walkable City. This is a topic that I'm really interested in. This is about how we can save America's downtown. Just wanting a book about urban planning and the importance of having a walkable city. And as someone who went to college a couple years ago and misses being able to walk everywhere, I live in a town now where like you cannot exist without a car here. And I would love to read a book that is about how we could possibly adjust. Those are all the books that I'm hoping to read this quarter. Please let me know if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them. Do you think there's any that I'm really gonna love or really not gonna like? Let me know. And what do you plan on reading this quarter? I would love to hear about it. And if you don't have anything to say, but you just want to say hi that you're here, helps out the channel, you can leave me a little deer emoji, as there is one on The Tyranny of Faith. I had to dig through several books to find like an emojiable book. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to find me anywhere else on the internet, you can find me at the links in the description. And if you'd like to keep watching my videos, you can hit subscribe and find out when I make new videos. And I will see you in the next one.